me first start by reading this article to you. A huge victory. Transgender man awarded €5,000 compensation from barber who refused to cut his hair. Lee McLaughlin said he was refused a haircut after barber mistakenly believed he was a woman. This is an update from Thursday, 10:57 p.m. A Dublin barber has been ordered to pay $5,000 to a transgender man after it was found to have discriminated against him by refusing to give him a short back and sides. Speaking after the Workplace Relations Commission WRC ruling, Lee McLaughlin said he was absolutely thrilled with the outcome. It's a huge victory for all transgender people and is the best outcome I could have wished for, he said. And you'll note that the paper is concurring and calling him and identifying him as a he. There's no legal standing, there's no legal reason that a transgender woman should be legally considered in a court of law, that they've just reinforced that if someone is science to believe that they believe they're another sex, that it can be upheld in a court of law through the Equality Act. When the basic common science tells us that's not the case. He told the barber that he just wanted a short back and sides, but the barber replied, "We don't cut ladies' hair, I'm sorry." McLaughlin said that he then told the barber that he was a transgender man after the fact. He alleged that the barber proceeded to shake his head and said, "I'm sorry, we can't cut ladies' hair. It's a contract that we have with another hairdresser around the corner. So if we cut a woman's hair, we'll be fined." Embarrassment. McLaughlin had arrived at the barber's at 1:05 p.m. and proceeded to take a seat with a number of other men queuing, waiting 25 minutes before it was his turn. I don't know, what do you want to say to that? Even the dude sat beside her would have known that she was a woman, sitting there with a short back and sides, and wouldn't have given a fuck either way. If you want to get your hair cut in a barber shop, get your hair cut in a barber shop. But the fact that you're a woman and that the hairdresser has a contract agreement with a ladies' hairdressers around the corner, they won't specifically cut women's hair. Let's crack on. He told the WRC hearing that the comments by the barber were uttered in front of a number of customers caused huge embarrassment and distress to him, that he left the premises in shock. McLaughlin said that the incident has greatly affected him and caused him stress, shame and embarrassment. He claimed that he was discriminated against under the Equal Stats Act by Charlie's Barbers on the grounds of gender when he was refused a haircut. The WRC upheld his claim, with the adjudication officer Gerard McMahon ordering the respondent in the case, Paula Smith of Charlie's Barbers, to pay out $5,000 to him. Emergency counselling. McMahon concluded, "On the balance of the evidence presented, I conclude that the complainant was treated differently because he was transgender when he was refused a haircut by the respondent." I guarantee it, any bloke looking at a transgender woman trying to claim that they're a man are easily identifiable, hugely identifiable. I don't care what you think, you're a woman. And any normal Joe Barber would look at you and go, "You're a woman, darling. I'm sorry. Where do I stand? I don't know. I can't cut your hair, otherwise my gaffer's going to get in trouble. And I'll get in trouble. I don't need the hassle. It's just a contract we have. Sorry about you." No. Let's cause a big song and dance. I'm offended. When questioned at the WRC hearing as to what might have led to the barber to take that stance that he did, McLaughlin responded that he was not sure, as he was dressed as a male and was trying his best to appear male. McLaughlin said that the refusal by the barber necessitated an emergency counselling session. When asked about redress at hearing, McLaughlin responded that the case was not about money. He explained it was the principle and that the precedent set on behalf of those who might find themselves in a similar scenario in the future. The barbers apologised for the incident and noted that action had been taken to prevent a reoccurrence. So the shop kowtows and says that it's making reparation and it's going to facilitate any other woman that wants to come in and that ascribes themselves to be a man should be treated so. Why? It's not true. You're being lied to. You're being fooled. I don't know what to say on anyway. One-off mistake. In its defence, the barber stated that the barber in question did not recall McLaughlin saying that he was a transgender man or a trans man until he was leaving the premises. The barber stated that the barber in question had no training in cutting ladies' hair and had never done so before. The barber also told the WRC that the barber in question was told when stating his job that the business lease prohibited the shop from cutting women's hair. The barber stated that the barber in question did not mean to offend McLaughlin and believed that he was performing his role correctly and protecting his employer. Solicitors for the barbers contended that a one-off mistake did not amount to discrimination. The barber said that it had put in place a policy to prevent a similar incident from happening again. The barber told the hearing that he did not intend to treat the complainant in a less favourable manner, as he would treat all women in the same manner. Why is he in sick? I'm sure it's a professional journalist's job to know why that's like that, because I don't. He added that his misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the gender identity of the complainant was an honest mistake. I want to contrast that with this story from the Witherspoon Institute. Just to give us another side, this is coming from the Johns Hopkins Medical School, and this article is dated 2015. I recently come across it again. Don't forget, what happens in America usually transcribes over to here in Europe, more so here in Ireland. And we're already 3 years behind the curve. And if you're following anything, the American news sources or the American culture war that's going on over there at the moment, you'll see that we're 3 years behind the bell curve as it is, according to this article. It's a bit of a long article. I encourage you to bear with me. I'll get through it as quick as I can. But again, it's just in contrast of what we just read out there. The article starts: for 40 years as the University Distinguished Service Professor of Psychiatry at Johns Hopkins Medical School, 26 of which were spent as a psychiatrist of chief of Johns Hopkins Hospital, I've been studying people who claim to be transgender. Over that time, I've watched the phenomena change and expand in remarkable ways. A rare issue of a few men, both homosexual and heterosexual men, including some who sought sex change surgery because they were erotically aroused by the thought or image of themselves as women, has spread to include women as well as men. Even young boys and girls have begun to present themselves as of the opposite sex. Over the last 10 or 15 years, this phenomenon has increased in prevalence, seemingly exponentially. Now, almost as everyone of us have heard or met such a person. Publicly, especially from early examples such as Christine Jorgensen, Jan Morris, Rennie Richards, has promoted the idea that one's biological sex is a choice, leading to widespread cultural acceptance of the concept. And that idea, quickly accepted in the 1980s, has since run through the American public like a revelation or meme, affecting much of our thought about sex. The champions of this meme, encouraged by their alliance with the broader LGBT movement, claim that whether you are a man or a woman, a boy or a girl, is more of a disposition or feeling about yourself than a fact of nature. And much like any other feeling, it can change at any time and for all sorts of reasons. Therefore, no one could predict who would swap this fact for their makeup, nor could one justifiably criticise such a decision. At Johns Hopkins, after pioneering sex change surgery, we demonstrated that the practice brought no important benefits. As a result, we stopped offering that form of treatment in the 1970s. Our efforts, though, had little influence on the emergence of the new idea about sex or upon the expansion of the number of transgendered among young and old. Olympic athlete turned pin-up girl. This history may clarify some aspects of the latest high-profile transgender claimant, Bruce Jenner. The 1976 Olympian decathlon champion is turning away from his titular identity as one of the world's greatest male athletes. Jenner announced recently, don't forget this is back in 2015, that he identifies as a woman and, with medical and surgical help, is busy reconstructing his physique. I have not met or examined Jenner, but his behaviour resembles that of some of the transgender males we have studied over the years. These men wanted to display themselves in sexy ways, wearing provocative female garb, More often than not, while claiming to be a woman in a man's body, they declared themselves to be lesbians, attracted to other women. The photograph of the posed, corseted, breast-booted Bruce Jenner, a man in his mid-60s, but flaunting himself as if a pin-up girl in her 20s or 30s, on the cover of Vanity Fair, suggests that he may fit the behavioural mould that Ray Blanchard has dubbed an expression of autogenophilia, from genophilia, attracted to women, and auto, in the form of oneself. The Emperor's New Clothes. But the meme that your sex is a feeling, not a biological fact, and can change at any time, marches on through our society. In a way, it's reminiscent of the Hans Christian Andersen tale, The Emperor's New Clothes. In that tale, the Emperor, believing that he wore an outfit of special beauty, imperceptible to the rude or uncultured, paraded naked through his own town to the huzzas of courtiers and citizens anxious about their reputations. Many onlookers to the contemporary transgender parade, knowing that a disfavoured opinion is worse than bad taste today, similarly fear to identify it as a misapprehension. I'm ever trying to be the boy among the bystanders who points to what's real. I do so not only because the truth matters, but also because overlooked amid the hoopla, enhanced now by Bruce Jenner's celebrity and Anne Leibovitz's photography, stand many victims. Think, for example, of the parents whom no one, not doctors, schools or even churches, will help to rescue their children from these strange notions of being transgendered and the problematic lives these notions herald. These youngsters now far outnumber that Bruce Jenner type of transgender. Although they may be encouraged by his public reception, these children generally come to their ideas about their sex not through erotic interest, but through a variety of youthful psychosocial conflicts and concerns. First though, let us address the basic assumption of the contemporary parade, the idea that exchange of one's sex is possible. If it, like the storied emperor, is starkly, nakedly false. Transgendered men do not become women, nor do transgendered women become men. All, including Bruce Jenner, become feminized men or masculized women, counterfeits or impersonators of the sex with which they identify. In that lies their problematic future. When the tumult and shouting dies, it proves not easy nor wise to live in a counterfeit sexual garb. The most thorough follow-up of sex reassigned people, extending over 30 years and conducted in Sweden, where the culture is strongly supportive of the transgendered, documents their lifelong mental unrest. 10 to 15 years after surgical reassignment, the suicide rate of those who have undergone reassignment surgery rose to 20 times that of comparable peers. How to treat gender dysphoria. So how should we make sense of this matter today? As with any mental phenomena, which is crucial, noting its fundamental characteristic and then identifying the many ways in which that characteristic can manifest itself. The central issue with all transgender subjects is one of assumption. The assumption that one's sexual nature is misaligned with one's biological sex. This problematic assumption comes about in several different ways, and these distinctions in its generation determine how to manage and treat it. Based on the photographic evidence, one might guess Bruce Jenner falls into the group of men who come to their disordered assumption through being sexually aroused by the image of themselves as women. He could have been treated for this misaligned arousal with psychotherapy and medication. Instead, he found his way to surgeons who worked him over as he wished. Others have already commented on his stereotype caricature of women as decorative babes. I look forward to wearing nail polish until it chips off, he said to Diane Sawyer. A view that understandably infuriates feminists and his odd sense that only feelings, not facts, matter here. For his sake, however, I do hope that he receives regular, attentive follow-up care, as his psychological serenity in the future is doubtful. Future men with similar feelings and intentions should be treated for those feelings rather than being encouraged to undergo bodily changes. Group therapies are now available for them. Most young boys and girls who come seeking sex reassignment are utterly different from Jenner. They have no erotic interest driving their quest. Rather, they come with psychosocial issues, conflicts of the prospects, expectations and roles that they are attached to their given sex, and presume that sex reassignment will ease or resolve them. The grim fact is that most of these youngsters do not find therapists willing to assess and guide them in ways that permit them to work out their conflicts and correct their assumptions. Rather, they and their families find only gender counsellors who encourage them in their sexual misassumptions. Those with gender dysphoria need evidence-based care. There are several reasons for this absence of coherence in our mental health system. Important among them is the fact that both the state and federal governments are actively seeking to block any treatments that can be construed as challenging the assumptions and choices of transgendered youngsters. As part of our dedication to protecting America's youth, this administration supports efforts to ban the use of conversion therapy for minors, said Valerie Jarrett, a senior advisor to President Obama. Now, I'm just going to break away on a quick interlude while I have your attention. Remember that I'm pointing out these facts. Valerie Jarrett, President Obama. President Obama, as James Clapper cited earlier in the week, knew about the Pfizer warrant application and knew about the investigation that was being conducted on candidate Trump, then private citizen, now President Trump, in control of the wheels of steel, the Department of Justice, the NSA, the FBI now being routed out. Once Mueller is gone, Rosenstein's next on the chopping board, and then you are going to see some fantastical prosecutions. Look out for Stroke, Page, the Pfizer warrant applications, and the Mueller investigation collapsing because there was no legal basis for them to start the Pfizer warrant, and they have been caught by their cojones. By the cojones! Oh, it's coming. You're not hearing about it here in Ireland. You're not hearing about it here because you're only watching the headlines. You listen to RTE and all that BS, or you're listening to Dennis O'Brien's headline grabbers on the newspaper stands. That's bullshit. Look at what's happening in the real world. Let me get back and finish this article. Valerie Jarrett, President Obama. Remember I said these two words. In 2 states, a doctor who would look into the psychological history of a transgendered boy or girl in search of a resolvable conflict could lose his or her license to practice medicine. By contrast, such a physician would not be penalised if he or she started such a patient on hormones that would block puberty and might stunt growth. What is needed now is public clamour for coherent science, biological and therapeutic science, examining the real effects of these efforts to support transgendering. Although much is made of a rare intersex individual, no evidence supports the claim that people such as Bruce Jenner have a biological source for their transgender assumptions. Plenty of evidence demonstrates that with him and most others, transgendering is a psychological rather than a biological matter. In fact, gender dysphoria, the official psychiatric term for feeling oneself to be of the opposite sex, belongs in the family of similarly disordered assumptions about the body, such as anorexia nervosa and body dysphoric disorder. Its treatment should not be directed at the body as with surgery and hormones, and any more than one treats obesity-fearing and anorexic patients with liposuction. The treatment should strive to correct the false, problematic nature of the assumption and to resolve the psychosocial conflicts provoking it. With youngsters, this is best done in family therapy. The larger issue is the meme itself. The idea that one's sex is fluid and a matter open to choice runs unquestioned through our culture and is reflected everywhere in the media. Boom! 3 years ahead, don't forget. 3 years ahead. Where are we now? What's happening in our media? Why is this meme being pushed on us? Why is this being facilitated and encouraged to happen? From a governmental standpoint, it's everywhere. Not just the transgenderism. This is being pushed. There's an agenda behind this. Remember I said Obama, Valerie Jarrett. Remember these names in the future. Whew, that was a rant. It is reflected everywhere in the media, the theatre, the classroom, and many medical clinics. It has taken on cult-like features, its own special lingo, internet chat rooms providing slick answers to new recruits. It is doing much damage to families, adolescents, and children, and should not be confronted. And should not be confronted as an opinion without biological foundation wherever it emerges. But gird your loins if you would confront this matter. Hell hath no fury like a vested interest masquerading as a moral principle. All right, my friends, patriots, I'd like to leave you with those two articles, two contrasting articles, one from the journal.ie and one from the Witherspoon Institute. I encourage you to have a read through them, have a re-listen through this this account. I'll post the links to the articles in the description box if you want to peruse through them and read through them for yourself. Have a look in there. I'd like to thank you all for your continued support, active words of encouragement. I implore, I beseech, I importune you, to rob a good man's phrase, to please leave your witticisms, thoughts and observations in the comment section below. Those of you in the conspiratorium will know where I got that one from. It just springs to mind. But please leave your comments, thoughts and witticisms below. If you're of so mind of a client, smash the like button and give us all helps with the algorithms. If you'd like to see more of these, press the subscribe button and then also press the little blue tick bell button, which you'll be reminded of future events, future streams and the weekly broadcast that we do here every Sunday with the resignation list. Keep your eye on that. Huge dealings over in the United States with a huge resignation since President Trump executive order on the 21st of the 12th, 2017. I encourage you to explore and investigate what that means, human trafficking offences. Also, lined up another interview tomorrow. We'll be presenting that during the week and hopefully come back to you with more news, broadcasting to you here behind enemy lines in Dublin, Ireland. With that, I'd like to say thank you and good evening.
Wuss.